Hi there, in this video I want to show you how to fasten off. So at the end of every project, you're obviously going to need to cut your yarn and hide all of your little tails. So right now I have a tail from when I started my original chain, and all I've done so far is I did 6 chains, and then I did some 5 single crochets, zigzagging I believe 2 or 3 times. And so I'm going to show you how to fasten off and weave in ends, and then later in this video I'm going to show you how to finish off around and how to close up that hole properly, so that way all of your stuffing doesn't come out when you're making amigurumis or 3D objects. So all I've done so far is I finished my row, and let's say this is all you had to do. Maybe it's a patch on top of a teddy bear, whatever it is that you're making. All you're going to do is you're going to find any sort of hole that's nearby, and you're going to do a slip stitch. So I'm just going to turn it over, find my first single crochet. I'm just going to grab my yarn, and I'm just going to pull through both loops on my hook. And once you do that, you have knotted off your yarn. So now what I can do is I can just leave maybe an inch or 2, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pull your hook straight up. So what you've done is you've created a knot at the end of your project. So right now we have 2 tails, and I'm going to show you how to weave these in. Now this is probably every crocheter's least favorite task to do, but it's necessary for you to have a nice clean product. So the good thing about the tail is it gives you a sense of security. So right now I can pull on any part and it's not coming apart, and that is really, really good. So if you're ever giving this out as like a gift or something, and some people are like, oh my god, there's a thread that's coming loose, just reassure them that, you know what, it's tied off, just tuck it in, no big deal, it's not going to unravel. So in order to weave it in, you're going to insert your hook into the closest hole to the tail, and you're just going to pull it through. And you're just going to go through any hole that's like any neighboring hole, and you're just going to zigzag through. Now I like to just do this across the top, so that way it's not within the project too much. So I'm just going to go zigzag maybe 3 or 4 times. It doesn't have to be the entire length of the tail that you cut, just enough that you can kind of see that it's hidden. Now what I'm going to do is I like to just kind of pull a little bit, because if you weaved it too tight and then you snipped it, this is going to fall back into your project, and you're going to see it stick out again. So I like to just pull just to make sure that it is in fact comfortably sitting, and then cut as close as you can, and then that's it. So you can't really see that I've weaved it in unless you really, really, really look for it. You can kind of see a little bit there and a little bit there, but it's really simple. Okay, so that's weaving in for a flat sort of straight line. Okay, coming up next, I'm going to show you how to do that with a circle. So what I've done for closing up a sphere or any sort of circle is I've just done a magic circle, and then I've increased it up to 18 stitches, and then I dropped it right back down to 6. So in this last row, you can see that I haven't closed up my circle yet. What you're going to do to fasten off, most patterns that have circles usually end off with the 6 stitches. Very rarely does it close off with like 4 or something like that. But what I'm going to show you is how to close this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish off my my round. So that was that 6. And then what we're going to do is we are actually going to snip the yarn, but you're going to give yourself a couple more inches than you did with the straight one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself probably about 8 inches or so. I consider that to be a bit of overkill, but that's okay. Better to have too much than not enough. And I'm going to lift my hook up so it has been knotted, so it's not going anywhere, which is nice. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just imagine with me that there's a bunch of stuffing in there. I don't want to waste the stuffing. But what you're going to do is you're going to go through each of those 6 single crochet stitches, and you are going to insert your hook, grab your yarn, and just pull it completely through. And you're going to do that for every single stitch that you just did with that last row. Okay. So you did 6 stitches, but it's okay to do maybe 7 or 8 of these, just to really secure what we're about to do. So don't pull tight or anything yet. Just loosely pull these through, because half the fun is the pulling at the end. Nothing fancy. Some crocheters like to just go in the back loops. I don't think it really matters too much, especially considering it's just the end of your project, so nobody's really necessarily looking at this section anyway. So I think I've done about 6 or 7, I'm not really sure, but it looks like I'm back to the beginning. So what you're going to do is, now that you've loosely looped your way through, when you pull this, all of the loops from this tail are going to be pulled out. And in order to do that, all you're going to do is grab tightly, hold on to where everything is sort of like released or taken out. You're just going to pull. And when you pull that tight, you're going to notice that that hole is super tiny, like smaller than my hook can fit. Okay, so that's how we would close up the end of any sort of 3D image or project. But what you're going to do now is you need to make sure that that's tied off, because really I could go back in there and I could pull that so it's back to what it was. So you're just going to kind of do what we did for the flat straight line sort of fasten off. You're going to go into any sort of stitch that's nearby. You're going to grab your yarn, pull through, but just a loop, and then you're going to grab your yarn and you're creating a knot. Now, the fun part about weaving in the ends of something 3D is you don't really have to do a whole lot. So what I like to do is go further into my project with my hook, come out as close as you can to where you just made that knot, grab your yarn, and pull it all the way through. So essentially what we've done is we have hidden the first couple inches or first inch or so of that yarn, and then we can cut this out and tuck it in if need be. So that's how you fasten off for 3D things. And as you can see, that hole is really small, so if you were to imagine that stuffing inside there, it's not going anywhere. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and happy crocheting.